Shalom, ladies, and welcome to week 46 of Coffee and Connection. I'm so excited to be here with all of you, and I really want to thank everyone who showed up live, anyone who made an extra effort today to show up live, as I gave an extra invitation to show up live today. And today's topic is so important and also so vulnerable. So I'm expecting you, I'm express I'm especially acknowledging you for showing up because this is the kind of topic that can actually make people run away, right? It's the kind of topic that can make people, they get scared about their fears, right? We have fear about our fears. So talking about fear is not easy. Talking about fear is scary. It's kind of like vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is vulnerable. Fear is scary, right? So I really acknowledge all of you. And I just want to express that the best way for me to make this call really practical for all of you and actually be able to coach you guys through the fears that you want to share that come up, the best way is for you to share them in the chat. And if you are worried about privacy in any way, what you can do, I just want to share with you how you can do this, is you go to the list of participants. Okay, so you can click on participants on your screen. Everyone's computer has it a little differently. And then if you hover over your name, it says that it shows how you can rename yourself, and you can change your name so that nobody, if you're worried about other people seeing it. But of course, what we're going to notice very quickly is how fears are so common. And the crazy thing about fears is that we're often so scared for other people to hear our fears. We're so scared because one of the biggest fears that women have is that I'm the only one dealing with this. Tell me if that resonates with you. Just go ahead and put in the chat if that fear resonates with you. I'm the only one dealing with these issues. I'm the only one who struggles in this way. It's only me. Everybody else has it together, like those kinds of fears. And when we can recognize that, wow, these are actually very common fears that many women feel, then it can actually really help us. Yep, thank you for my first vulnerable posting. That can really help us actually deal with these fears. So let's just take a few minutes first to talk about why fear is so. Oh, I just wanted to mention before I do that. After last week's, thank you again. After last week's call, I had a little bit of like a thought about, you know, as much as I love my night tea and I really am working on not having caffeine late at night, I was really missing the coffee aspect of coffee and connection because coffee really is about connecting. So I actually went out last week and got myself some really nice decaf coffee. So I'm really happy to be actually having this conversation with you over my coffee. So I'm having coffee. I don't know if you're having coffee, but it definitely brings in that connection feeling. So let's talk first for just a few minutes about why it's so important to deal with our fears. And as I'm doing that, I invite you all to, start to really think about what is that fear that you would like some coaching on? What is a fear that you would like to get some real tools as to how you can overcome it or how you can work through it? Because here's the issue with fears. Fears actually, I don't know if it's the proper words of the use of the term literally, but literally hold us back, right? If you think about something you really want to do in your life, okay? Think about something that you are passionate about, you want to do, maybe something fun, maybe something that takes a big step, maybe something that would be really powerful or cool or connecting. And think about why you're not doing it, right? Fear can literally be like this wall that holds us back from taking the next step forward, that holds us back from doing what we want to do, from being who we want to be, from initiating connection of any kind. It can be what holds us back from any change, from any movement in our lives, right? It can really keep us stuck in so many different ways. Fear really has that power because it's when we're in fear, it's like our brain is just screaming like, no, don't do that, right? And gets to like the second issue with fear is that fear doesn't feel like fear. When you're in fear, you're not thinking, oh, right? Unless you're like doing this work very mindfully, you're not thinking, oh, there's a fear. You think that that is truth. Your fear comes up for you as truth. It feels real. Fear is real. We feel it in our body. We have all these signs. We're like, oh, maybe God's telling me I shouldn't do this, right? It's crazy what can happen when we're feeling fear, right? And because fear is so scary, as I was saying in the beginning, because fear is so scary, it's hard to deal with it. We don't even want to think about our fears. We don't want to deal with our fears. But here's the thing, if we're not honest about what our fears are, right, and how they're getting in the way of being able to move forward, then we won't be able to move forward, right? If we're not real with what the issue is, with what the fear is, then we can't do the work to overcome the fear. Now, I'm not just going to tell you, oh, feel the fear and do it anyways, just like that. Like, oh, you're scared, just do it, right? That likely is not really going to work. If it would work, we would have done it already, right? We need to work through that fear. We need to deal with the fear. We need to process the fear. We need to get ourselves into a state of understanding the fear. Sometimes it's that we need to know something that we don't know right now, right? So there really are so many great tools that we can use for dealing with fear. Each fear may have its own ones, but we can't use any of them if we're not honest about what that fear is, even within ourselves. So I'm going to really invite you right now to put some fears in the chat. Like, what are some fears that you feel hold you back? What are some fears that cause you to feel stuck in any way in your life? What are those fears that you feel like, I don't want anyone to find out about me, right? That's what I was saying. You could change your name in the participant list if you don't want anyone to find out about you, right? But what are those fears that really cause you to feel like you are stuck, that cause you to feel like you are alone, or that cause you to feel like there's nothing you can do, right? Some of those might be fears on their own. Let me just close on browser so we don't have any issue here. Okay, yes, leave. Thank you. Okay, you. Besides that I try to close my everything on my computer. So I really invite you to go ahead and share any specific fears. I want to share some of the fears that I hear a lot from women, but of course you're welcome to put any others in, and that's how I can really give you that those tools. So here we have one: fear of trying to do something and then failing, so I would rather pretend that I am not really trying. Thank you. That is a fear, right? Anyone who can resonate with that fear, just go ahead and say yes, me too. It's definitely something that I've dealt with. It's definitely something that we as women, we as people, right? We as Jewish women who want to, and yet you're getting some agreement here, who want to accomplish and want to be want to be capable. We want to be good at what we do, right? Then if the fear that I'm going to do something and then not and fail, right? Now we could also look at that, is that a fear of actually failing? Sometimes our fear is that I won't get it perfect, right? How that can actually get in the way of even trying. I'm not even going to put in any effort. Now, the way to deal with that fear is reminding ourselves that when we don't do it and we pretend that we're not really trying, in the end of the day, at least you know that it's actually important to you, right? And if you're not doing it at all, if you're not even trying, then you are actually failing, right? This is a good example of how our fears can create our fears. So the fear of, if I do it, I may not be successful, that then causes us to not even try at all, so we are not being successful, right? And sometimes reminding ourselves of that, of like, well, if I'm doing nothing, I'm still not accomplishing. I'm failing. I don't even think of it as failing, but I'm not moving forward. And reminding ourselves that at least if we take steps forward, we're on that path. We're not going to get it perfect, but we're going to work towards it, right? At least one step at a time. There's a great phrase that I keep hearing. It keeps showing up in my life. I don't know why. Maybe for this reason. There's a great phrase that, like, let's say you want to have an oak tree in your yard, if you have a yard or whatever. Let's say you want to have an oak tree. When was the best time to plant the oak tree, right? So the best time to plant the oak tree was 100 years ago. What's the second best time to plant the oak tree? Today. Today is the second best time to plant the oak tree. And as someone's saying here, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Supposedly said by Wayne Gretzky. I don't know if that's true, but I've definitely heard that one before. That's a great one. Thank you, Eliza. Yeah, that's exactly it. We can say, well, I don't know, like just reminding ourselves, like that fear of I may not be successful. Well, yeah, we can remind ourselves that, like, we're not going to get it perfect right away. We're never going to get it perfect, but we're going to do our best. Is, is that not better than not doing it at all? Right? So here there's a follow-up fear. I think the fear is of other people seeing me fail. That is more scary. So if I pretend that I don't care, they think I really don't care. So here's the thing about that. And here I'm just going to give you a little bit of like mind shift, right? If, let's say, that was true, let's say they notice that you're failing, they would look at you and be like, oh, she's failing, she's not doing it, right? If it actually bothers them that much, if it's something they'd actually notice, then don't you think they're noticing that you're not doing it at all, right? Maybe that it's likely already bothering them. And here's the other thing, and here's a little trick you can use to kind of like get yourself moving. What if you don't tell anyone that you're doing it? It doesn't have to be like an announcement. Hey, everyone, I'm working on X, Y, and Z, right? Sometimes it feels good to say that. But if, like, let's say suddenly I decide, oh, I am going to work on, and I'll just pick something trivial but not trivial, right? I'm going to work on making sure that the dishes are washed every day, right? And I announce that. Hey, family, Deutsches, listen up. Emma's going to wash the dishes every single day. Woo, who's excited, right? Well, then if I miss a day, yeah, they might be like, Emma, what's going on? Like, where's the dishes? And then I'll get upset, right? Like, hey, why are you being so entitled, right? But like, there I went and made a proclamation. And what if instead I just told myself, this is something I'd like to work on. This is something I'm going to make an effort in. I'm going to commit to, perhaps, if it's important enough. And then if other people notice, what they're likely going to notice more is my success. If they're going to notice my failure, then probably they're already noticing that I'm not doing it today. Does that resonate? We can it's very interesting how many of our fears, not so much, okay? So thank you for your honesty. So here's the thing. Let's go on to like the other part of it, which is that there's this fear of what will other people think, right? A lot of us have that fear. Raise your, virtual hand or whatever, just in your living room, in your bedroom, if you like, you have a fear of what other people will think, right? It's a very big fear that many of us have of what will people think of me, right? Yes, many of us have that fear. What will people think? And here's the thing, when we get stuck in that fear of what will people think, right? Then what happens is that we get sucked into that never ending pit of feeling like I have to try to control how everyone feels and how they feel about me. right? Let me try to make everyone happy. Let me try to please everyone, right? And that's kind of, it sounds like maybe that's what's going on here because you're saying, well, this is something I want to do, but I'm worried I won't be successful. And so I'm worried what other people will think of me if I'm not successful. But yet, what is that fear? Right? It's holding you back from doing what you want to do because you're afraid of what other people will think. And what I was sharing before is that if other people are going to think those things, they could already be thinking them, right? Because the truth is, we can't control what other people think of us, and we can't make everyone happy. So that fear, like you're sharing here, I fear I'll end up being a loser. No matter what other people think of you, you wouldn't be being a loser, right? Your being is you, who you're being, right? I'm not saying you, let's just put this in like some tough love coaching, right? What would actually make someone a loser? What's like the technical definition? I don't know if there is like a Webster's definition. What would actually make someone a loser, right? An actual loser is likely somebody who just doesn't show up, doesn't even try, right? So that fear of, oh no, I'm going to look like a loser is that actually creating an experience where you feel like it, where you feel like that's what you're being because you're not showing up in your life the way that you want to, right? Here's the thing. As much as we'd like to think we can't control how other people think about us or and we can't control how other people think about us and we can't make everyone happy, right? And the crazy thing is that actually, if you think about it, how other people think of us is not even a result so much of what we do. It's a result of how they interpret what we do, right? What people think of me is based on who I remind them of and how my words come across to them and what experience they have when they meet me and whether or not I speak a similar language to them and whether or not they like my energy and whether or not they feel like there's so many different things. The same thing that can make someone like me could be the exact same thing that makes somebody not like me. Right? You ever have that experience where like you go to a shear with someone and exactly what you liked about the shear is what someone else didn't like about the shear? Right? Someone might say, I love that person's, personality. Another person might say, oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. I can't stand that person's personality. And I've had this experience where like I'll send out an email that like people will love, 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 love. Thank you so much for sending that. That was the most, important thing I've ever read that made such a difference for me. And then I'll get people emailing me like, that was horrible. Please take me off your email list. I never want to have anything to do with you again. The same email. I'm not joking, right? We can't make everyone happy. And so many of us are wearing that weight on our shoulders of, I have to make everyone happy. And that fear of what does it mean? And what will it do? What will happen if I don't make everyone happy? Right? What if we could take that fear off of our shoulders? What if we no longer were so scared of what other people thought because we realized that we can't control it anyways? And there's the whole, fear creating our fear, and perhaps the fear of how other people will see us is actually what causes them to then see us that way. It's mind-blowing how far this can go. But definitely, if any of the fear, yeah, we spend so much time and energy making people happy and attach our well-being to that. But the truth is that even if other people like me or don't like me, so much of that has nothing to do with me. It has to do with them and their perceptions and their feelings and their stories, right? So when we get wrapped up in that fear, note how it can so hold us back in so many different ways when we are tied into like the fear of what will other people think. And when we can let go of that fear, what becomes possible, right? If you didn't have the fear of, well, maybe other people will see me fail and what will they think, right? then it sounds like you wouldn't have the fear to do something and try something and plant that tree today. And then what becomes possible? That's what I invite you to consider. Okay. I just want to, I just see another comment. I think that I don't feel comfortable with other overachievers, so I don't want to come across as an overachiever. See how you're like our fears can like feed off of each other, right? I'm scared of failing, but then if I succeed, I'm scared of succeeding. And we can really make it impossible for ourselves to move forward. And all of that is still based on how other people will see you. The fear of, will I upset somebody else? There's actually, I think his name is Gay Hendricks. He has a book called The Big Leap, where he talks about, I talked about it in the summer, some of the fears that can hold us back. And one of the fears he shares there is that fear of, well, I don't want to be too good. I don't want other people to feel bad with my success, right? And then there's that fear of, I don't want people to see that I'm not successful, right? It's amazing how our fears can like be everything all at once, right? And really create such a powerful boundary for ourselves to even move forward in our lives. So note how recognizing what that fear is what allows us to start that work. And it is a process, right? It is a process to let go of that fear, but recognizing it is the first step. Recognizing, oh, I'm in fear of what other people think, right? Is planting that seed, right? It's starting that process of getting out of that fear and letting it go so that you can move forward and do the things you want to do and be the woman that you want to be. Okay, let me see what other fears came up. I don't want anyone to know how disrespectful my husband is towards me. It is so hurtful. I don't want people to judge me based on his behavior towards me. This is such a common fear. I cannot tell you how often I hear this where women feel like, I don't want anyone to know what's going on in my house. I don't want anyone to know what kind of relationship I have. I don't want anyone to know the way maybe I talk to my husband or the way he talks to me or the fact that we don't get along so well or the fact that we fight or the fact that we are, the way we handle our issues. This is so common. And the thing with that fear, here's the thing with that fear, is that wrapped up in that fear is a belief that we are the only ones dealing with this issue, right? That belief that no one else is dealing with this, that other people would be horrified to know what my husband says because no one else's husbands are talking to them that way. And also wrapped up in that fear is it sounds like there's kind of this belief that at this point nobody knows. So here's the thing I'm going to invite you to consider. If you're hiding so well the fact that your husband speaks to you that way and you believe that nobody knows, how do you know that other people aren't hiding the same thing? Right? There's actually a phrase in social psychology or sociology. I don't remember what the phrase is. I have to look it up because it's a great phrase. But it's basically this idea that we could all be doing the same thing, like that we don't want to do, thinking that, well, everybody else enjoys this, so I'll go along with it. But really nobody likes it. And I think today that shows up in the world and definitely in our community as, I'm going to pretend I have it all together. I'm going to pretend that I have the perfect life because everybody else seems to be expressing that they have the perfect life. And I feel like I don't have it all together. That we struggle with our struggles, but we think, wow, everyone else has it all together and I'm the only one that doesn't. So I'll pretend that I do. What if everyone is kind of pretending, right? Because here's the real truth. I'm going to invite you to really lean in and listen to. Nobody has it all together. Nobody is doing it all. It's impossible. It's impossible. Nobody can do it all and have it all together. Everyone is making sacrifices. Everyone is making, I like to think of it as choices. Everyone is choosing what they are working on, what they're going to focus on, what's going to matter to them, what their values are going to be in this moment of their life. That's all we can do, right? And that fallacy of I'm the only one who has to do that. No one else has to choose. No one else feels like the other parts of their lives that they aren't choosing are falling apart or whatever. That creates that fear of I have to hide those parts of my life that aren't working right now. Right? It's not always the choice. Sometimes it's the reality that, this is a struggle for me right now. We all have struggles. We struggle, everyone's here because we want a better relationship. We want things to improve, which means that there's aspects of our life, aspects of our relationships that we don't like the way they look. We want it to look better. And it would be embarrassing to find for other people to witness that. But what if we knew that everyone was experiencing that in some way? Right? One of the things I always find so powerful in the Absolute Feminine Group Coaching Program is when a woman shares something saying, I know I'm probably the only one who's dealing with this. I know probably nobody can relate to this, but this is something I'm struggling with. And she puts herself out there and she shares something. And then you get woman after woman after woman saying, me too. I'm also struggling with that issue. Thank you for bringing that up. Or I didn't even realize how much this was affecting me until you brought it up. Or, oh my gosh, now I understand what my husband is struggling with. And when we feel alone, we don't talk about it. When we're embarrassed about it, when we're fearful of it, we don't talk about it. And we stay hidden. We hide the fact that we have that struggle. Then the problem is that we don't allow ourselves to get that support, to get the help, to learn the tools, right? And we feel alone, as the woman is messaging, that she always feels so alone. And it's so important to know that you are not alone. This is a topic that I have been seeing from so many women for years, and it's only become more pronounced over the last 2 years, right? With Corona and everyone's fears, this feeling of being alone. Women feel very alone because we get married, we get thrown into this house with this guy that we barely know, right? And all of a sudden, we're supposed to have a perfect relationship with him because we tell ourselves it's going to be perfect. And it looks like everyone else is getting it perfect. Everyone else has it together. Everyone else is a happy newlywed. Why am I the only one struggling? Why am I the only one that feels like something's wrong? And when we realize that other people also think that we are the happy newlyweds, when we can realize that everyone has their struggles, that can give us the courage to say, okay, this is a struggle. This is a challenge. Let me look for those tools. Let me get the help. Let me get the support that will actually allow me to overcome this challenge, right? So you want to look at when there's something holding you back, when there's fear, to ask yourself, how is this fear actually holding me back from getting the help that I could get, right? How is this fear keeping me in the fear, right? The fear of being alone causes us to not talk about our feelings, and then we are more alone, right? Just like this can be with so many fears, right? I have a fear of dogs. It's an embarrassing fear that I'd love to get over, but as of now, I always say I have other priorities in my life, but I do have a fear of dogs. And since I was 10 years old, and that means that I don't like to be near dogs. Now, probably because I haven't dealt with that fear, So the more I don't put myself in a place where there are dogs, the more that I jump every time they come near me, the more I have confirmation of my fear and the less comfortable I feel around them. I'm not saying that I should have had any like, my parents should have just sat me next to a dog and like made me deal with it when I was 10 years old. I'm not saying that that would have been the right way to handle it. And yet I know that by not hanging out with nice dogs and not allowing myself to enjoy like, a cute dog, I'm keeping myself in that fear, right? So I can't just pretend it's not there, but that could, give me the confidence and the strength to then take action and deal with that fear. So we've definitely talked about two of the big fears that show up in our lives. One is the fear of what will others think. That is a huge one. And the other is a fear of what if I'm the only one, right? I have a fear of other people finding out about this, which, when we think about it, really all like a lot, it really comes together. There's this huge fear that we live with that we are alone in our struggles, right? That we are the only ones dealing with them, that and that we have to, keep everyone else happy as we deal with those struggles. And I'm going to really just invite you to think for yourself about with these two fears that, how it may be showing up in your life and any way that you can apply these ideas to the fears that come up for you. And you're welcome to share them with me. Send me an email, chana@absolutelyfeminine.com. I'm going to invite you to share an email with me for two reasons. Number one, how you can apply the coaching about these two fears to your personal life. And if you have any other big fears that you would like me to talk about, maybe we'll do another episode on more fears that show up and practically what we can do about them. So I want to really thank the women who express these ones. I think they are the big ones, two of the biggest ones. And I thank you for like leaning in and receiving the coaching on it. And I look forward to hearing from all of you as to, again, how you feel that this can apply to you in your life and any other fears, any other big fears that you would like some more, that you would love to receive tools on how to deal with them. And we'll see if we'll do another episode on this topic. So thank you everyone for being here with me. I look forward to seeing you next week. I've enjoyed having my actual coffee with you. And until next week, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.